What if I told you there's a device that can bend time itself and show you things that should remain hidden? Deep in the frozen wastelands of Siberia, where winter darkness lasts for months and the temperature drops to -40 degrees, Soviet scientists built something that shouldn't exist. Something that made test subjects see the future, communicate telepathically across continents, and lose their grip on reality entirely. They called it the Kozyrev Mirror. And what they discovered inside it changed them forever. Some never recovered. Some claimed they saw the end of everything. And some said they met themselves from timelines that never existed. This is their story. In the 1990s, as the Soviet Union crumbled and secrets spilled into the light, a Russian astrophysicist named Nikolai Kozyrev had a theory that sounds like science fiction. He believed time wasn't just a dimension we move through, it was a physical force, an energy that flows through the universe like a river of invisible current. And if you could manipulate that flow, redirect it, concentrate it, you could do the impossible. You could see across time itself. Kozyrev had spent years in Stalin's gulags, imprisoned for his ideas. In that darkness, in that isolation, his mind wandered to places most scientists fear to go. He emerged with theories that made his colleagues uncomfortable. Theories about time having density, weight, even consciousness. He died in 1983 before seeing his wildest dreams realized. But his colleague, Alexander Trofimov, picked up where he left off. And Trofimov was willing to go further. Much further. In the remote Arctic town of Novosibirsk, 800 miles from Moscow, Trofimov constructed something extraordinary in an abandoned research facility. A chamber lined with polished aluminum sheets, curved into a precise spiral pattern based on Kozyrev's calculations. The mirrors weren't meant to reflect light, they were meant to reflect time itself. The theory? By sitting inside these curved mirrors, you could concentrate the flow of time around your body, creating a temporal vortex. Reality would bend. The barriers between past, present, and future would dissolve like mist. Your consciousness would become untethered from the present moment. But theories are one thing. What happened inside was something else entirely. Over 12,000 people entered the Kozyrev Mirror during experiments conducted between 1990 and 2012. They came from all walks of life. Scientists, students, volunteers seeking answers, the desperately curious. They'd sit in complete darkness, surrounded by curved aluminum that gleamed dully in the shadows, sometimes for hours at a time. The chamber was small, claustrophobic. The air inside felt different, participants said, heavier, like breathing underwater. And then, things started happening. Within minutes, participants reported seeing vivid hallucinations, but these weren't random images or dreamlike sequences. They were specific visions, crystal clear, more real than memory. They saw events from their childhood with perfect clarity, details they'd forgotten decades ago suddenly sharp and present. They witnessed moments that hadn't happened yet, playing out before their eyes like films. Some claimed they could see through the eyes of people thousands of miles away, experiencing their thoughts, feeling their emotions as if they were their own. One woman described watching her daughter's wedding in exquisite detail. 3 years before her daughter was even engaged. She saw the dress, ivory with lace sleeves, the flowers, white roses and blue hydrangeas, the venue, a garden overlooking a lake she'd never visited. She even heard the vows, word for word. When the wedding finally took place 3 years later, every single detail matched. The dress, the flowers, the garden, the vows, exactly as she'd seen them in the darkness of the mirror. But it gets stranger, much stranger. Test subjects in separate mirrors, isolated in different rooms with no way to communicate, reported the same visions at the same time. They'd emerge minutes apart, describing identical scenes, identical faces, identical moments, as if they'd been pulled into the same nightmare together, their consciousnesses somehow merged across space. Scientists measured unusual electromagnetic activity inside the chambers that defied conventional physics. Participants' brainwaves synchronized in ways that shouldn't be possible, people who'd never met thinking in perfect unison. Some experienced what researchers called temporal displacement, the sensation that hours, even days had passed when only minutes had gone by, or the opposite, emerging after what felt like seconds to discover hours had vanished. Their watches stopped working inside. Digital devices malfunctioned, compasses spun wildly, and the visions kept coming. Faster, more intense, more real. Not everyone who entered the Kozyrev Mirror came out the same. Some didn't come out whole. About 15% of participants reported overwhelming dread within the first few minutes, a primal suffocating sensation that something was watching them from beyond the mirrors, not observing, watching, with intention, with hunger. They described presences in the darkness, shadows that moved independently of any light source, shapes that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space, whispers in languages that predated human speech, sounds that bypassed their ears and spoke directly into their minds. Several people had complete psychological breaks during or immediately after sessions. They emerged disoriented, unable to distinguish their visions from reality, convinced they were still inside the mirror even days later. Some claimed they'd lived entire lifetimes inside the chamber during sessions that lasted less than an hour. They'd grown old, raised families, died, and been reborn, all while their bodies sat motionless in the dark. One researcher, Dr. Yevgeny Krasnikov, described a participant who entered the mirror for a standard 30-minute session. When they opened the chamber, the man was curled in the fetal position, dehydrated, exhausted, and traumatized. He insisted he'd been inside for 3 days. No food, no water, trapped in darkness while things circled him just beyond his vision. His body showed signs consistent with his claim: severe dehydration, muscle atrophy, psychological trauma. As if his physical form had somehow experienced the time his mind believed had passed. But perhaps most disturbing were the participants who came out. Changed. Fundamentally altered. They spoke differently. Moved differently. Their loved ones said they seemed like different people wearing familiar faces. Some claimed they'd left something behind in the mirror, a piece of their soul, their consciousness, their very identity, and something else had filled the void. They'd wake screaming about being trapped in the aluminum, watching through their own eyes, but unable to control their bodies. 3 participants committed suicide within 6 months of their sessions. Their notes mentioned the Watchers and the space between seconds and the thing that wears my reflection. The experiments were eventually shut down in 2012, not because they didn't work, but because they worked too well, and because people started disappearing. Not physically, worse. They'd return from sessions and slowly fade, their presence diminishing day by day until even their families struggled to remember them, as if they were being erased from reality itself. Here's what makes the Kozyrev Mirror truly terrifying. We don't know what it actually does. We have theories, we have data, we have thousands of testimonies. But we don't have answers. Is it tapping into some unknown property of space-time, bending the fabric of reality through precise geometric reflection? Is it triggering deep psychological states that unlock latent psychic abilities hardwired into human consciousness? Is it creating a bridge between dimensions, allowing our minds to slip through cracks in the universe? Or is it simply driving people mad in very specific, measurable, repeatable ways? The Russian government classified much of the research in 2012. Documents were sealed. Participants were asked to sign non-disclosure agreements. The mirrors still exist, hidden away in remote facilities across Siberia, gathering dust in the darkness. But some say experiments continue in secret. Different facilities, different mirrors, deeper experiments. Because if the Kozyrev Mirror really can bend time, really can connect minds across vast distances, really can show us the future and the past simultaneously. What else can it do? What happens if you stay inside for days instead of hours? What are those presences people feel watching them? Echoes of other timeline versions of ourselves, entities from outside our dimension, or something far worse and most disturbing of all? What if the mirror doesn't just reflect time? What if it attracts something from outside our normal reality? Something that's been waiting in the spaces between moments, in the gaps between seconds, for a doorway to finally open. What if every person who enters leaves the door open just a little bit wider? What if those presences aren't trapped in the mirror, but we've been letting them out one session at a time for over 20 years? The Kozyrev Mirror sits in the darkness right now, its curved aluminum surfaces waiting for the next person brave or foolish enough to step inside and face what lies beyond the boundaries of time. Somewhere in Siberia, in a locked room in an abandoned facility, those mirrors are still there, still curved, still polished, still reflecting something. Would you enter the mirror? Would you risk seeing what shouldn't be seen, knowing what shouldn't be known, becoming what you were never meant to be? Or would you walk away, wondering forever what secrets it holds, what truths it could reveal, what version of yourself might be trapped inside, screaming to get out? Some doors, once opened, can never be closed, and some reflections don't show you what you are. They show you what's waiting to replace you. Subscribe for more disturbing science and unexplained phenomena.